Hi, this is Scott Garibay, and today I want to talk about Dungeons and Dragons, and I want to talk about Apple's 2021 film, Tom Hanks' 2021 film, Finch. And I want to talk about this in context to understanding Gary Gygax's legacy. It's an extremely deep film. It's a beautiful film, and I think it's an important film from the perspective of understanding Gary Gygax. So let's jump right into this and kind of walk this through. So what are we dealing with so what is the movie Finch about, and how does it relate to Gary Gygax's legacy? So the movie Finch is about three beings, right? Finch himself, who is a human who has survived in the apocalypse, okay? And essentially, essentially it's an apocalyptic world where, America is a wasteland, and Finch is one of the remaining survivors, and literally millions and millions of people in America have died. The vast majority of people in America have died. So Finch is a human survivor. And then there is Jeff, Jeff is a very powerful robot, okay? And last, there is Goodyear, and Goodyear is a dog who is very loyal to Finch and loves Finch, and the robot loves Finch, and they both, and the three of these guys, they are together and they are trying to make their way in the world. How does this relate to Gary Gygax's legacy and you and me, dungeon performers, dungeon masters, and the rest of the world, the Muggles who are aware of Dungeons and Dragons but don't do Dungeons and Dragons. They don't run it, they don't read it, they don't play it, they don't act in it, right? Like, they don't live in the Dungeons and Dragons worlds, in the Dungeons and Dragons realms. So the way I see it is, I think this is a template for understanding what Gary accomplished and what our place is and what the Muggles' place is, right? And think about what Gary Gygax actually accomplished, okay? So basically, I think the movie is an explanation of Gary Gygax from the perspective of Gary Gygax as a third path human, okay? You and I, dungeon masters and dungeon performers, as second path humans, and then last, Muggles as first path humans, right? And I know, and yeah, so that's what I think, and I'm going to explain it now, right? So first of all, the most important secular question to me is, what is Dungeons and Dragons? I am constantly asking this question because I don't think we've even remotely uncovered what Gary actually accomplished with Dungeons and Dragons. So I was very tempted to really think that Gary Gygax had created something beyond human with the Manifold Sentient, right? Now, what is the Manifold Sentient? You and I are Manifold Sentient. We have played Dungeons and Dragons, and we have 10, 20, 30 different sets of memory, feelings, memory, sensation, experience, preferences, gender aspects, and we have these distinctly in ourselves, and we also have them mixed within ourselves. And we can access lessons learned by identities who are not our core identity, and then we can infuse lessons that are core identity. Me, Scott Garibay, can port lessons into Kindwin, the half-orc cleric, or Beryl, the turtle wizard. And then as I'm going about my daily life, I can do things and make choices that Beryl, the turtle wizard, would make, right? And this makes me fundamentally different than most humans, right? And I was very tempted to actually think that Gary had made something beyond a human, right? And I don't think that's right. I think, our Manifold Sentient. So here's the question: are Manifold Sentience literally beyond human? I think the only reason I reject that is it's blasphemous. I think, we're all under Christ and we are all saved by Christ. And I think Christ only saves humans, right? So it'd be impossible for Gary to make something beyond a human, because none of his work is going to supersede Christ's work, right? Because Gary was just a human being, whereas Jesus Christ was a human being and a God, right? And the God, right? Like, so it's different there. Did Gary Gygax make the next version of human, the next edition of human? Like, let's walk it through. Cro-Magnon, right? Big, thick skull, Homo sapien. And then Gary comes along and opens up the next form of human evolution, Homo multi, right? Like, beyond Homo sapien as Homo multi, someone who has multiple identities and can process and use multiple identities. I don't think that's right either, right? Because I don't think, this happened in 1974. There haven't been enough years for there to trigger these physical differences in the evolution of humanity, right? There's only been 50 years. Evolution doesn't work that fast, right? So what did Gary do? And I think the best way to understand what Gary did is understand that we had a first path human, a human who did cognition, whose cognition, perception, and expression were at a very low level. People who think shallowly, perceive little, and express poorly, right? And then what he did was he created a second path human, okay? We're human, but we have a completely new way to think, a completely new way to perceive, and a completely new way to express ourselves, right? A completely new way to think, a completely new way to feel, a completely new way to perceive, right? To sense, right? A completely new way to think, a completely new way to sense, a completely new way to think, to feel, right? And I think, and then wait a second, Scott, did you talk about a third path human? Yes, I think Gary was actually a third path human, right? Now, what is that? Well, that's like a once in a millennia type of polymath, right? Like Socrates or Galileo or Da Vinci. That's what I think. And the reason why is, we keep digging out these treasures from Dungeons and Dragons, and Dungeons and Dragons continues to perform in ways that no game has ever performed, and just really allow us to accomplish things that are tremendously different, right? And so I think that's the best way to think of this, is this second path, a second path human, a human who has completely new ways to think, sense, and feel, right? And that makes us fundamentally different. So Gary is Finch, we are Jeff the robot, and the rest of the Muggle world is Goodyear the dog, right? In that the way we interact with each other is fundamentally different, right? And of course, when I say that Muggles are the dog, they're all thinking, caring, good beings, right? Like there's no difference in their value. They're all equally valuable, right? The dog is equally valuable as they're all okay. The dog, the robot, the person are not equally valuable in the story, right? Finch is more valuable than the robot. The robot is more valuable than the dog, okay? When I say there's this first path human, this second path human, and this third path human, they're all of equal value, right? And actually, I'm stating that. I'm not asking a question. I'm saying they're all of equal value, and it's very important, right? And I understand it's problematic to say, hey, Gary was a human, we're robots, and the Muggles are a dog, right? And so I want to address that, right? So they're all equally valuable. They all have the ability to do good and be good, and they all are of equal, and all humans are of equal value, right? I'm simply putting this structure from this piece of art onto Gary, us, and them, right? In order to help us understand it. They're still all humans, right? And in the movie, Finch is the most valuable. The robot is the second most valuable, and the dog is the least valuable, right? In art, there is a hierarchy of value. In real life, first path humans are equal in value and equally able to do good, equally able to choose to do good. I don't know if they're equally able to accomplish different levels of good. I do think that Gary did a lot more good than I did, right? Like, and I have the ability to do more good than a first path human. But we all have the ability to choose to do good and attempt to do good. And we're all of equal value, right? Unlike what's in the film. So I did want to talk about that because I think the analogy is strong and it's very powerful in helping me to understand Gary and myself and the rest of the world, right? And I want to explore this further, but I did need to kind of set that in place, right? So I don't think Gary created something beyond a human. I don't think he created a new edition of human. I think what he did was he created 3 paths for cognition, perception, and expression. And first path humans are on that first level of cognition, perception, and expression. And I think they're capped, right? They only have so much they can accomplish, right? Because they're on the first path, right? And the first path is short, right? And it doesn't go as long as second path or third path humanity. So second path, I do think we're going to be able to process with our cognition, our perception, and our expression in ways that first path humans were never capable of. And I think Gary is what Socrates and Da Vinci and Galileo were, and have done so much that their achievements stand as like a bright shining star beacon for the rest of us to attempt to achieve. Every single word you just heard is my humble opinion, and I know it's extremely challenging to hear it because it's like, what are you talking about, Scott? Please stay with me and be patient with me as I kind of conceptually break this down and continue to delve into the dungeon of Gary's legacy. I don't think we've even remotely, I think we're on level 4 of a 30 level dungeon. I don't think we have any concept of exactly how voluminous what Gary accomplished really was. Every single word of that is my humble opinion. What's important is when I get to hear your humble opinion, when you get in the comments and send your traffic. Please consider liking and subscribing. Have a wonderful millennium.